I wanted to spend a few minutes today talking about the Naomi Osaka story. And this is a pretty big story, not only in sports, but nationally. If you're not familiar with the story, Naomi Osaka is a very famous tennis player, number 2 ranked female tennis player in the world. And with the French Open coming up, she declined one of her press obligations to speak to the press, was fined $15,000, and then right after that announced that she was withdrawing for the French Open altogether because of the press obligations that went along with playing in that tournament. And she cited mental health reasons, specifically anxiety and depression. So I wanted to spend a few minutes talking about this story. This announcement that she made that she was withdrawing overall was received really well by the media. Some didn't take it very well and basically said, well, this is talking to the press as part of your job. It's not that hard. We all have parts of our job we don't like. Suck it up. There was some chatter about that. For the most part, people were really supportive of her. So I wanted to spend a few minutes talking about this and say that I'm supportive of her as well. I think anytime you feel like you're not in a good place with your mental health and you have the opportunity to take a step back, take that opportunity if you've got it. So if she felt that her anxiety and depression was really kicking up and was going to be made worse by these press appearances with this tournament, and she had the opportunity to bow out, I think that took a lot of courage. It's a sign of strength to make that decision, not a sign of weakness. So I want to applaud her for taking that stand, not playing, if she feels like that's what's best for her and her mental health. I think we need more people to kind of champion our mental health issues, and I think she's leading well in that way. She should be applauded. I want to give her a lot of kudos for doing that. That said, she released a statement about this and citing kind of what was going on and why she was withdrawing. And towards the end of the statement, she mentioned something about that once she comes back from this time away, she wants to address the press conference issues with the powers that be in the tennis world. I'm not sure what that means, but it almost sounded like it meant that there should be less press conferences or maybe no press conferences. That was kind of insinuated. I just want to say, maybe those conversations need to be had. I don't know enough about the sport to say, but I will say these press conferences are not the real issue here. The real issue is Naomi and what's going on inside of her, and banishing all press conferences is not really going to deal with the issue for her. And so I would encourage her, and no reason to believe she's not doing this, but to see a counselor. There's an opportunity here. There's an opportunity to grow and really figure out what's going on, and a good counselor can work with her on this issue from a couple different angles. The big question is, what is it about a press appearance that really makes her anxious? Anxious to the point where she, bowing out of a tournament where, one of the biggest tournaments of the year for her. That's a bold move. What is it about a press appearance that does that leads to that anxiety? Is it talking to the press in general? In other words, could she go out and read a prepared statement in front of the press? Does that create anxiety? Is it talking off the cuff to the press? Does that create anxiety? Is it the question and answer? So if you've seen a press conference, oftentimes the athlete will come out and speak for a few minutes, and then the press will answer or ask questions, the athlete will answer. Is it the questions and answers that are the problem? Is it all questions that are the problem? Is it just the negative questions? Is it the questions that have embedded in them a criticism of her play? That would be very common. Taking criticism is hard, and the idea that criticism may be coming can create a lot of anxiety. And so just in that specific example, a counselor can really help. Oftentimes what can happen with our jobs, whether you're a pro athlete or whatever you do, our jobs can be so kind of they can become so much a part of who we are that a criticism of how we do part of our job isn't just a criticism of our job, it becomes a criticism of us as a person. And that can cause a lot of anxiety. So a good counselor can help someone like Naomi or whoever kind of pull those things apart and help her see that her identity isn't in her job. Naomi as a person is different than Naomi as a tennis player. Again, I don't know if that's what's going on, but that's just an example of how a counselor can help. She really needs to get down to the bottom of what is it about the press conference that's making her anxious. And once she finds that out, then, she can do some work and there can be a lot of healing. Another thing a counselor can do is something called exposure therapy. And so exposure therapy in a situation like this with public speaking or a question and answer might look like this. A press conference is not a safe place. Lots of people firing questions away. That's not a safe place. If you're anxious in that situation, that's not a good place to kind of work through these issues. The better place to do it is in the counselor's office. So what a counselor can do is Naomi would be sitting on the couch and the counselor, would be in there with her, and the counselor will start to ask her questions that might mirror questions she would get at the press conference. And maybe the counselor asks some easy questions first, and then maybe works his or her way up to some harder questions that maybe be more critical. Now, Naomi has the power here. Naomi, in that space of the session, can say, hey, no, I'm done. We had 3 questions today. That's all I can do. And that gives her the power. That makes that a safe place to work on some of these things. And so maybe they spend a few sessions and the counselor asks 2 questions a session and she says that's enough. Maybe they work on their way up to 4 or 5 questions. 4 easy questions and a hard one. And she works her way up. After a season of that, maybe the counselor says, okay, Naomi, let's bring one of your friends in. We're both going to ask you questions. And you do that for a few sessions. Then maybe bring a couple more people in there. And again, Naomi can say, hey, no, this is too much. But that's what exposure therapy will do. We'll break her in gradually in a safe environment to essentially simulate a press conference. Exposure therapy can be really effective. And will Naomi get to the place where she loves press conferences? Probably not. But she can absolutely get to a place where she can tolerate them and they can be a part of her job that she may not ever enjoy, but she can at least put up with for the greater part of her job that she really does enjoy. So a good counselor can be really, really helpful in a situation like this. And again, maybe she needs to have a conversation with the powers that be in the world of tennis, but not until she does some work on herself first. That's really the most important part of the story that I hope she takes to heart. No reason to believe that she won't. But anyway, my thoughts on this whole situation. It's an ever-evolving story. I'm sure this video will be outdated quite soon, but I wanted to weigh in. It's a big story nationally, and I think it's important for us all to hear and take in and apply to our own lives. So, out for now, and we'll see y'all next time.